Hello and welcome to the Here We Grow Show, a show specifically designed to bring together community leaders making a difference and share financial strategies so you can plan for and live the retirement lifestyle you've always dreamed. Your host is Amazon bestselling author, president, and founder of Foguth Financial Group, Michael Foguth.
Hi, I'm Michael Foguth. I believe in educating you about information that matters to you and your retirement. Join me this week and every week as we welcome today's leaders in our community, as well as experts in the field of finance and retirement to discuss topics that matter to you today. These discussions can help you make better financial decisions so you can plan for and live the retirement of your dreams. Welcome back, folks. I am excited for another great episode of the Here We Grow radio show. This week is like every other week. We have a phenomenal guest. We have one right now that is in the spotlight, not only on a weekly basis, but on a daily basis, both locally and nationally. We have the Eastern Michigan Athletic Director with us this week, Scott Wetherbee. And Scott, I know you're kind of wearing two hats. We're going to talk about that on the show right now. Is you have this athletic director hat that you have to wear, and then you also have this VP hat, vice president hat, that you have to wear, and kind of how those commingle. But to give everybody out there listening a little bit of your background, and if you can share with us a little bit of that. But I know you've been in, the collegiate athletic administration industry, if you will, or position for over 20 years. And one of those awesome stories that I love, I got a big smile on my face for those out there that are watching online. You started selling tickets, which led to the job in the market. That's kind of how my same passion was, is I started kind of at the bottom, and then you just keep growing and going and going and going. So tell us a little bit about getting started in the whole, athletic administration arena.
Yeah, I always thought I was going to get into coaching. So, you're right. I came up through what we call the ticketing ranks, and had my first opportunity at Western Michigan. Kathy Beauregard, who's the athletic director at Western right now.
Her husband, she's still there. She brought you on.
She did. Her husband was my football coach and guidance counselor in high school. And I called him back when I was getting my degree and said, hey, I need an internship to finish my degree. And she stuck me in the ticket office at Western Michigan back in 1997. So I'll date myself. That's awesome. And so that's where I got my first opportunity and just kind of worked my way up. And I've been all over. I went to Ball State, but I worked at Fresno State and San Diego State, met my wife when I was in California, and then moved to North Carolina and worked at East Carolina. And that's where I had the opportunity to start getting into marketing and fundraising a little bit. And my two kids were born there. And then we had the opportunity to go to the SEC in Mississippi State and really oversee those external areas and really have the SEC network was just launched, and I was a big part of that. And it was a lot of fun to kind of go through that, and then have the opportunity to come home to Eastern 3 years ago. It's just been just over 3 years, and it's been a whirlwind 3 years. A lot happening here and a lot of challenges, but I feel good that we're in a good spot right now.
Absolutely. So it sounds like a lot of MAC ties there, and I'm very familiar with the MAC, as I am a Chippewa myself. So you're saying it's kind of some of those bad language. I heard Western Michigan and now Eastern Michigan. It's like, no, I'm just joking. But yeah, so your wife's probably thinking like, what in the heck is this guy doing bringing me to Michigan after you met her in California? They took her to the Carolinas, like weather, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Like, hey, honey, trust me, you'll get used to this beautiful Ypsilanti weather, right?
Yeah, that's been part of the challenge. We talked a lot about that, but I tell you what, the Michigan summers, she really appreciates.
Amen.
Especially this summer, it's been incredible. And then the winters are the gray. I mean, she likes sunshine, so that's the one part. She's like, there's just too long of stretches with it being gray. And it's funny. I think I have 5 or 6 Central Michigan grads on my staff. So we appreciate our MAC brethren, and even though we can be rivals.
Civil rivals, right? Yeah.
So they got good work ethic up there, so that's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell that to everybody I talk to, all my clients. I'm like, look, in my opinion, there's no better place in the entire world than Michigan, or even northern Michigan in the summertime. Like, you're right, this summer has been just perfect of like sunshine. Like, it's been warm, but it's not like, I mean, I don't even know if we've hit 100 this summer. It's been like perfect weather. So
I totally agree. And we can't go inside really anywhere, so you got to stay outside.
You got to stay outside, and the kids are all home, and everybody's home more. And it's like, hey, this is, there's a lot of silver lining to this stuff, and there's a lot of chaoticness going on. And, let's talk a little bit about that pandemonium, if you will. I mean, the pandemic hits, right? And I mean, okay, so first, and again, I'm just kind of speaking as a dad or as a Joe Public, if you will. Pandemic hits and we're all fearful of health and all this other stuff. And okay, stay at home, everybody goes to home, but you still had students on campus and student athletes, right?
Yeah, and so when March 12th hit, that was the big one for college athletics, because that's when we decided to pull the plug on our basketball tournament. I was in Cleveland. We were having athletic director meetings with all the other ADs in the MAC. That was prearranged months in advance, and then to make decisions about that day, and then 2 hours later make a decision for the whole spring was really tough. And so the challenge with that is trying to communicate, one, with your staff, and then getting that disseminated down to the student athletes, and making sure that you're communicating, which is the biggest piece to this. And with so many unknowns, you feel like you're communicating almost too much, because every time you put something out, you're trying to be as transparent as you can. 2 hours later, it's something completely different. And so I try to just tell people, look, this is fluid. We're just going to hang together. I'll be as upfront and honest with you as I can, maybe too much that we have to pivot. And so I've used the word pivot quite a bit, because we seem to be pivoting all the time.
Absolutely. And was it the MAC? Wasn't somebody on the actual court? Was it the MAC tournament that somebody was on the court? I remember seeing it on.
Well, we had we had two of our teams out warming up. We
that's
pull
what it was.
that we had not started, but we pulled them off of warm-ups, had told them we were going to do temperature screenings and interview them. And a half hour later, we said, you're not even going back on the court. I mean, it went that fast. It went from, okay, we're just going to check symptoms and do temperature checks to, nope, we're done. And then it went to, nope, we're canceling the spring, all within a 2 hour window. And so I'm driving home from Cleveland for 3 hours, trying to talk to our staff, and called an all staff meeting that night. We didn't know about Zoom. I didn't know about Zoom till the following Monday. It's all like, let's just get on a conference call, and who's checked in.
Yeah, let's I'll patch you on your cell phone and you patch somebody else in, and right, we're doing it like we always would do. I agree.
Yep.
And now here I am, I do 12 Zooms a day, and my eyes are burning by the end of the day, because all you do is look at a computer screen. It's crazy.
And now I don't even want to get on a phone call. I'm so used to seeing people, right?
Yes, I've been watching the HBO series Hard Knocks. And when they call on, they do a whole team meeting on Zoom, and they force every player to be on camera. There's no blacks, you can't video, you have to be on it. And I agree with you. There's something about seeing people and interacting and kind of going through all of that. And, and that kind of ties into, sports are, I don't know. It's a staple in not only this country, but in this world of just, for one, it's a revenue source for obviously for the universities, but there's such a ripple effect to this. So I guess when it comes down to making these decisions of canceling, not only an event, but now we're talking about canceling seasons, right, in the spring. And now here we are, in the fall, just recently announcing, and I believe the MAC was one of the first conferences in the country, right, to come out and be like, hey, we're not going to play. And it's like, wait, what? Where does this, is it happening in individual conferences? Is it coming down from NCAA? Where are you guys getting the final hard stop decisions from?
Yeah, the decisions are being made at the conference level, because like you said, there is a ripple effect. There's an impact to each of those. And we all have our own medical teams that are guiding us and we're meeting with. And, I've had multiple Zooms with 3 or 4 of our docs around our 12 campuses that will come on and actually advise us on where they think we're going to be, what are the trends, where is testing, how easily can we get the tests, what is the cost of the tests, what do we expect to see after Labor Day. We have all of this information, and I'm looking to doctors. This is their specialty. I'm a dumb jock that's an athletic director that is trying to sit here and have student athlete experience their well-being, their health, their safety, their mental health. All those things are what I'm concerned about. And so that's the challenge, is getting guidance there. But then also know there's a financial ramification. And we're a little bit sheltered in the MAC compared to a Big Ten. You know,
Right.
when U of M has 100,000 people and they all converge on Ann Arbor, and there's the money that's instilled within the community, within the athletic department, and then that's dispersed to all the student athletes and all their sports. You know, we have to think about that. I was at Mississippi State. They're going to try to continue to play. I don't blame the SEC. That's for a Mississippi State who has $100 million budget, 80 million of it's football. And so if they don't have a football season, they may not have a department this year. And so
Right.
they've got to do everything. It's worth $5 million to test every day and know that they're creating basically their bubble if they can, just to have the opportunity to play, because the finances. And then Starkville, Mississippi itself needs the money for people to come to town and spend money in their community. And they're going to do that at a 25% rate right now. They're already going to take a hit. If they totally shut it down, they get zero. And so it's bigger than just, you know, the university itself. But what I would say, where I was comfortable in this, is at the end of the day, if we truly care about our student athletes and their well-being, the doctors told us and didn't advise us that we should be trying to compete this fall, that we just couldn't do it. And that was the same message the Big Ten got, same message the Pac-12 got. And the only thing I wish would have happened, I wish the docs from each of the conferences would have got together and had conversations, because it sounds like we were being advised differently than the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12. And they
have to be, right? I mean, if
Yep.
Big Ten and MAC are saying, well, our docs and everybody's saying to cancel, SEC, obviously, I got to assume, right? And I hate to assume things, but their docs can't be like, no, you guys can't do this. And Saban and all the guys down in SEC are like, well, appreciate the opinion, but we're going to go ahead and advise again. I mean, that's a liability nightmare. I can't imagine, right? Their docs have got to be saying something different.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. So I joke that Dr. Fauci should have been the head of that and got all of our docs, all of the docs together and let them work it out.
Well, I mean, you're right, because okay, so we're talking about 80% of a school's athletic budget is coming from one department, right? And then again, so let's talk about, I mean, the student athlete. I think that's a huge one, because yes, we have their well-being, we have their things, but there's a lot of, okay, so I look at athletics from a collegiate standpoint of, they're not coming from all, like when you're in high school, we all come from the same town, right? We're all in the same we're on the same zone, right? Because we're in a school district. But now when you have these student athletes coming from all over the country, sometimes all over the world, right? I mean, I know when I was at Central, there were athletes that came from different countries and played. So now you have this whole other thing that's coming in. Tell me a little bit about that. So when these kids, these student athletes are coming in, right? And they're kind of converging on your town. Are you meeting with town officials, with people in the area? I mean, what's that look like from your standpoint?
Yeah. So how we managed this was, obviously we worked with campus and our dean of students and our provost, and communicating with our local county health to know, hey, here is our plan. And we laid out, basically had a whole testing plan. So we had, one, you had to basically fill out a form that lets us know, where have you been, where have you traveled, what have you done, kind of do like a pre-screening before you could come to campus. Then once you got to campus, we tested every one of our student athletes, because we wanted to baseline test all of our student athletes to make sure that nobody could start until they did a pre-screening, did a test, had their physical, and then we're daily monitoring. So every time you walked up with your mask on, we did a checklist to make sure they didn't have temperature, didn't, certain signs, and we're doing that daily. And we continue to do that. And then with the NCAA, we'll do continuous testing now, where we'll go if you're in competition, you test every week. If you're out of competition, which our fall is obviously out of competition now, we will what they call surveillance tests. So 25% of each group each team will be tested in their group. Now, we potted everybody. So football didn't just come back and have 110 guys and they just threw them all together. We started really small with groups of like 15 or 20, and most of them were people that lived together. So if they were four to a house, they were already kind of a family this summer anyways. and they worked out together and they stayed away from the other pods. And then you slowly start to bring them where we went outdoors. We might go from 20 to 40, but the roommates were the ones pairing up in less than 6 feet distancing, but they wore masks. And so you build the family piece to eventually you're going to start hitting each other and tackling, right? And so they were there in August. Eventually you can't separate anymore and you can't wear your mask. But we took our time and did that and tested to make sure that, we were easing it in, as opposed to, okay, and this is what's happening is, whether it's Greek Life or some others, people are coming back to a house and they're throwing a party and nobody's been tested, nobody's been checked. They all go out, and we talk a lot about, you can't let somebody come infiltrate your group. The only way somebody can get into your bubble is by going and letting somebody in, or you go visit somebody that's not a part of the bubble. Stick to your bubble. And we do that by teams and everything. That's how we talk through it.
Absolutely. Well, folks, don't go anywhere. We're talking to the Eastern Michigan Athletic Director, Scott Wetherbee. Scott, look, I got a ton more questions. I appreciate you being here. Folks, again, if you're just tuning in, go to the HereWeGrowRadioShow.com. The entire interview is going to be hosted on there, but we're going to be right back with more from Eastern Michigan Athletic Director on the Here We Grow radio show.
When times get tough, who do you have on your team? At Focus Financial Group, we win.
We win.
We win.
We win.
We win by helping you.
By helping you.
By helping you.
By helping you.
We win by helping you achieve the retirement you've always dreamed of. Clients who work with Focus Financial Group know they are backed by a solid, experienced, and winning team. It's time to choose your team. Choose the team from Focus Financial Group.
All right, we are back on the Here We Grow radio show with Eastern Michigan Athletic Director Scott Wetherbee. And Scott, right before the break, we were talking about how the student athletes were coming back onto campus at Eastern Michigan. You guys were doing a great job of all of the daily testing and the questions and keeping the kids as safe and as healthy as possible based off of all of the moving parts that are so fluid and again, to your words, that are pivoting on a daily, weekly, hourly basis, right? So what I wanted to talk a little bit about is how do you foresee, and again, I know that this is something that's going to be constantly changing. What do you foresee we know fall's canceled, right? It's check, let's move on. When does winter start for sports, and what is your thought on that taking place? Because do you foresee, because again, here we are in Michigan, governor said, hey, you can play football in fall sports if you're in these different regions. I know in the collegiate world, it's SEC is going full blow into football. There's a lot of rumblings about that. And we're not here in Michigan, pretty much the whole state. What do you foresee in the winter for sports and really getting your student athletes back in competition as safe and healthy as possible?
Well, I think there are a number of factors. And one is, where is your institution or your community in regards to testing and positive rates, right? And so with Washtenaw County, we've got University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan. We even at Washtenaw Community College. I mean, you've got a number of students that are 18 to 22, 18 to 23 years old in our county. And it depends on how they respond and how smart they are and how we do as a community will help dictate where we are come November and December. But, right now we really have no events until November, where we're turning the page to, we'll start looking at both basketball start. I think November 10th is supposed to be when they start. There's been discussion about delaying that start process. How are we going to test? How are we going to do that? And then you'll start getting into, we have swimming and diving. We have gymnastics will be starting as well. We have indoor track in field. So those are ones that are kind of the next level. And so we could be anywhere, I think we'll have to make decisions before October 1st on, are we going to allow people to try to do something in November? Will we have fans? You're starting to talk about indoor events as opposed to outdoor events. And so a lot of that, where are we at on testing? Whereas, I think our region, we're obviously doing better than the South. Michigan has done a really good job, being very forceful, obviously, to have that. And then, so how relaxed is that going to be? My struggle is I can't get people in a weight room in a gym. And so how am I going to have basketball games if we can't even get into a gym with more than 10 people, and we're at, only because we're at an educational place can we?
Right. You can't go from couch to court, right? It's just, you can't do that.
Right. And so we need some flexibility there, but I think we're also unique that we have the opportunity to test our, do COVID testing and be able to monitor. And we have trainers and strength and conditioning staffs and coaches that are looking at this daily, which is different than just, you or I trying to go to a gym and work out or go to a weight room and work out. So, and we've got stringent cleaning, we've got a plan in place where it's a little different than just your mom and pop place. So I think we're unique. We need some, I'm sure the Lions are doing things. The Tigers are doing things. The Pistons are doing things. They're allowed to have, some access to things. The university is going to need some of that leeway, knowing that we're testing and the plans that we have in place to be able to go forward.
Well, and that's the whole financial side of things, right? Let's talk about student athlete financial, then we'll talk about the university for a minute, because, okay, so if you're a student athlete, and the height of 99% of collegiate athletes peak of their career, right? And a very few, especially in the minority sports, are going to be able to go on to the next level, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. the peak of their career, if you will, their athletic career, is probably going to be some sort of MAC tournament or national tournament. And so when that's taken away, especially like in basketball, I personally was shocked. I can kind of understand, but once they took away the fact that your eligibility is gone, does that come from individual conferences, or does that come from the NCAA as far as not allowing a student to have their eligibility for the coming year?
Yeah, that decision actually came from the NCAA. They chose in the spring, and they've actually changed their tune here a little bit in the fall. They were basically your gymnastics and basketballs of the world. You were 90% of the way done, and so since you pretty much finished the year, like our men's basketball team was done. The women's basketball was in the semifinal when we pulled them. So they still had an opportunity to make the NCAA. But once they stopped the championship and announced that, then decided to not give eligibility to those that kind of went through, because most of it was done. But the spring, most people were just getting started. Baseball was 10 or 11 games in, and our outdoor track and field hadn't even started yet. So there was a number of those. I think rowing was just getting started as well. So those, they were able to come back for another year and have eligibility. Now, they just came out last week and said all fall sports, whether you play or not, even in the spring, you still are allowed to have get your eligibility if you'd like. So we have to have institutional discussions now and conference discussions on where do we stand as a conference, and then where do we stand as a university, because that's a significant cost. Yes. Because of the scholarships. And then what does that do to recruiting classes as well?
And that's what again, I kind of go back to just hearing some rumblings of, one of the big SEC guys, you hear Nick Saban say, we come back in the spring. And again, this was, maybe I'm misquoting him, but he said, basically, we're going to get JV football because our athletes that are going to be looking to turn pro are not going to jeopardize themselves this close to going into a draft. Right. So, so now you have some players that are going to be possibly stepping down in the fall or in the spring, but the NCAA is saying that they can have their eligibility. Well, they will not give them to come back in the fall again if that's what decides to happen at this point.
So even if they play, say Alabama gets all 10 games in this year, this fall, they figure out a way, which I don't think they're going to, but if they do, if they get those in, all those kids can come back another year. They don't have to stay. Now,
springtime or next fall?
Next fall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they wouldn't play in the spring. Yeah, they're not going to have a spring season. They're going to choose to play in the fall. Okay. Now, we were under the if we went to a conference only schedule and played, say, 8 or 9 conference games, and then I went to my student athletes and said, okay, we're going to play an 8-game max schedule. And then here's the protocols. You're going to get tested on Wednesday. You're going to fly to Army on Friday, and you're going to get your test results on Friday, and 3 of you are positive, and you were just all on a plane together. And then, and then now we're going to actually not be able to play. So we're going to turn around and fly back, and you just missed the Army game the following Saturday and probably the other following Saturday because you're quarantined for 14 days. You haven't practiced in 2 weeks. And now you just went from 8 games to 5 games. And so those are the types of conversations that, you're having. And then those guys are going, well, I'd rather redshirt. Okay, I'll play 3 or 4 of those games and then I'll come back next year. Where now they have the choice. Now they can say, I don't even want to play. Even in the spring, kids are like, well, I got my eligibility. Well, maybe I'll play a couple games. Maybe I won't. We're going to have those discussions as well. So there's a lot of uncertainty. And then we don't know as a university or as a conference how we're going to handle this and manage it. And then it's a domino effect. So if you say you have 15,
I'm going through all these dominoes because now you have scholarships, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you say that it's like, okay, housing cost of bringing these kids back. Like, I mean, not, you have you have a whole extra class, class on campus and in classrooms. I mean, some places can't accommodate those things.
Yeah. Well, and you also have, so say we have 15 football seniors come back and then you have your 85. And so then now you're at 100 scholarships for football for 1 year. Then you lose. The only ones that graduate are the 15 because everybody else has their eligibility. So you have all 85 scholarships. So basically you have no 22 recruiting class, unless they stair step it some way, shape, or form. So we've got a lot of discussions to have over this. It's going to be really interesting.
Absolutely. Folks, listen, we're getting really deep here with Eastern Michigan Athletic Director Scott Wetherbee. Don't go anywhere. We're going to come back, wrap the show up, and go into what we're seeing in student athletes and what we're seeing in – let's get past the athletes because Scott's also the vice president at Eastern Michigan. We're going to talk a little bit about actual academics here coming up. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with you on the Here We Grow radio show.
When times get tough, who do you have on your team? At Focus Financial Group, we win by helping you achieve the retirement you've always dreamed of. Clients who work with Focus Financial Group know they are backed by a solid, experienced, and winning team. It's time to choose your team. Choose the team from Focus Financial Group, a team of champions. Focus Financial Group, building our team to be a part of your team.
Welcome back, folks, to the Here We Grow radio show. We have Eastern Michigan Athletic Director and Vice President Scott Wetherbee. Scott, again, thanks so much for being here. I just want to do a quick recap before we wrap the show up here. We've talked about what it was like, where you were down in Cleveland when we made the decision to cancel the spring in the winter and what it's going to look like coming up here in the fall. We talked about making that decision as a MAC conference. We talked about how you got started in really this industry of athletic administration, and a great story that was. So folks that you want to catch up on those things, go to the Here We Grow radio show website. All of our episodes are on there. And one of the things that I want to tell you on one of the past episodes that we talked a little bit about here, Scott, was we interviewed the MHSAA president, Mark Ewell, and we kind of made a joke of how can you get these student athletes together with having the 6 foot, social distancing. His wife's a basketball coach, and he's like, hey, some of her girls play 6 feet away anyway. So it was kind of funny of saying, but those close contact ones we can't do. So it's always fun when we kind of mesh these shows together. But let's kind of talk a little bit here as we wrap things up of you being the vice president there at Eastern Michigan. What does it look like that you see? Let's get past the athletes, but the actual students themselves of the university coming back and really, is it all going to be, are we all going to be Zoom? Or are we going to be virtual? What's it look like over there at Eastern Michigan?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about this, and actually just announced on Monday that we're delaying our in-person by 3 weeks. So we were supposed to have move-in this week, and we decided to wait until 2 weeks after Labor Day. We wanted to see where we were as a community and see if, the response over Labor Day weekend, and give us an opportunity to get everything and our testing and protocols in place for the university. So we've been challenged with this, and it was tough decisions to make, especially so close to the semester starting, because we start school Monday. But we do have a lot of online classes. We are trying to have, there are just certain classes you have to have in person, or certain labs that we need to have in person. So, I'd say we'd have 25, 30% we're going to be in person, and then the rest we're going to be online. And now we're we're going to shift those that were in person for the first 3 weeks. We're going to have those be virtual classes and then shift to in person on September 21st. And we're very hopeful that our numbers continue to go down and it gets better. Our testing gets better, gives us an opportunity to have as true of a normal fall as we possibly can. And we need to, financially, it's good for us to have the kids here in the dorms. And, we've got different vendors and third-party groups that we work with and want to make sure that we're honoring them as well. But at the end of the day, it's about safety and our well-being of our students. And so that's, ultimately why we decided to pause for 3 weeks. I think you've seen around the country, whether it's Michigan State going online or Notre Dame having clusters or North Carolina State, Alabama had a huge one come out, Central's having issues. So we want to learn from those a little bit and have the opportunity to make sure that we're doing it right and everybody feels safe as they come on campus.
Do you see a lot of the student body coming back to, quote unquote, to campus, to dorms, to local housing, or do you see them doing this virtual learning from their hometowns, if you will?
Yeah, I think you're going to have a mix of that, especially those that up front, when 75% of your students are going to be online anyways. And it's their classes are, so they may only have 1 in person and 4 online. And we're, we have a lot of community, and a lot of ours is within 50 miles of Ypsilanti. And so they may drive in for that day and then leave. And so there are concerns there, and we want to have protocols coming into buildings and making sure that anybody that's come on campus is kind of did a self-check, did a little evaluation. So we're unique that we don't have the big dorm. Michigan State has its own little city there with 14,000 on campus, and we're at 3,000, so it's a little bit more manageable. But we still have 15,000 students at Eastern, and so some are going to choose to stay at home, and others are going to still live off campus, and then others are going to choose to live on campus. And then we just need everybody to be really smart and not get out. And the county did an ordinance where it's 25 or less, even outdoors, to kind of help mitigate some of those that people want to have a house party in their backyard and it'd be more than 25. Right? Yeah. Trying to get away from that as much as we can.
Sure. All right. Last question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So folks listening, we have Scott Wetherbee, the Eastern Michigan Athletic Director. Scott, so here's my question. Your best guess, when will we see football back in the MAC, or let's just talk the MAC because I know that's you. When do you foresee your student athletes back on the field, making that hit, having their rivalries with the Central Michigans, with the Western Michigans? When do you foresee that taking place?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a fall that looks a lot like our spring, where we're getting in training and doing what we can to get prepared for the spring. And then I think we'll have some kind of football season in the spring. And it'll probably be a conference only, would be my guess, type of scenario, and then have a MAC championship in May. That's just we have not laid out schedules, or, we're having those discussions now. So that's just where I think we'll see some hitting in the spring. We just got to figure out what's safe, right? How many games can you play in the spring, and then how many can you get in the fall and not feel like they can't play 24 football games in a calendar year. So we need to be really smart about their health and safety, and knowing they have another year of eligibility, at least granted by the NCAA, gives a little flexibility to that. So that's when I think we'll see. I think you're going to see these Power Fives that are moving forward right now. They're going to try to play, and we're going to have a lot of hiccups, and you're going to have a lot of games that are going to get canceled, and people are only going to play 5, 4, 6, 8 games. Very few will get all 10 in. That's just my personal opinion. And I don't know if I'd like that each week, not knowing.
Right, not knowing if you're going to be on the field or not. Well,
Yep.
I appreciate your time. Scott, go out, have a great day, continued success there, and take it easy on our Chippewas when we see you guys on the field coming up here. So thanks so much. Again, folks, on the Here We Grow radio show, we have Eastern Michigan Athletic Director and Vice President Scott Wetherbee. Scott, thanks so much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All righty, bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Here We Grow show. To learn more about how we can help you and to get access to the resources mentioned on today's show, visit herewegrowshow.com. Also, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes. Your reviews are the ways we reach more and more people each and every week. If you found today's episode helpful, you can bet there are others out there that would benefit from listening. Thanks again for taking the time to listen. Be sure to subscribe to easily access future and past episodes. Make sure to tune in next week for another great episode of the Here We Grow Show.
Investment advisory services offered through Grossman Capital Management, LLC, BCM, a registered investment advisor. BCM and Focus Financial are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BCM but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.